We all know words have power, right? Like a simple "I love you" can completely turn your day around. But this Christian podcast episode we're going to deep dive into today, it takes this idea a step further.
Oh, yeah.
It suggests that our words have like even more power than we realize, and it ties this power all the way back to the creation story in Genesis.
Mm, that is interesting. So how does it make that connection?
Well, the source talks about how God spoke the universe into being, like used words as the ultimate creative force.
Right, right. So we're not just talking about, influencing someone's mood. This source is saying our words have, like, a kind of divine power.
Exactly. They even point to Psalm 33.9 as evidence.
Which says,
For he spoke, and it came to be. He commanded, and it stood. It's suggesting a level of, like, authority and impact that goes way beyond how we normally think about communication.
whoa, that's pretty intense. Like, we're basically walking around as mini creators with every sentence. Kind of scary, huh?
Right. Talk about pressure. And while this specific source comes from a Christian perspective, the idea that words have inherent power, I mean, that resonates with a lot of cultures and religions.
Totally. Think about mantras in Eastern traditions, or like how some words are just taboo in different cultures. There's clearly something primal and universal about that connection between language and reality.
Absolutely. But to help us unpack this whole thing, the podcast episode we're looking at gives this cool framework. It looks at how we use words in four different directions.
Okay, I'm listening.
How we speak to God, how we speak to ourselves, to others, and even to our circumstances.
Four directions.
Yeah.
That does feel like a good way to understand the impact our words can have. So, where do we start?
Let's start at the beginning, right? Talking to God. Does the source suggest there's a right way to pray?
Well, it stresses the importance of reverence and intentionality. It's not about impressing God with fancy words, but more about, coming to him with a genuine heart.
So it's more about the honesty, the feeling behind it than the words themselves. I can see how that would resonate with people from different faiths too.
Yeah, exactly. The source emphasizes our internal posture. Like, it matters more than having perfect phrases. They also warn about letting frustration take over our prayers. We've all been there, right?
Oh, for sure. When life's throwing punches, your prayers can turn into one long complaint session.
Yeah, exactly. The source reminds us, even in those tough moments, we got to remember, God wants to answer us according to his will and timing, not necessarily our own.
Good reminder, especially when you're feeling impatient or doubtful.
Absolutely. Now, switching gears a bit from talking to God, the source goes into the fascinating world of self-talk. It says that our inner dialogue has a huge impact on, well, everything we do and believe.
Ooh, this is where things get really interesting for me. So we're not just talking about like avoiding negative self-talk, right? This goes deeper.
Way deeper. The source uses this powerful metaphor, words as seeds.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
Think about a time you kept repeating a negative thought to yourself over and over. How did that shape what you did afterwards?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, I get it.
This deep dive reveals that even our internal dialogue can actually create our reality.
That makes me think about those placebo effect studies, like just believing something can change your physical health. Is that what we're talking about here?
There are definitely some similarities there. The source argues that by, constantly planting those negative seeds with our self-talk, we cultivate a mindset that just attracts negativity and limits our potential. But if we speak positively to ourselves, truthfully, that creates a fertile ground for growth and flourishing.
I like that imagery. Makes you realize how much control we actually have over our inner world, you know?
Exactly. Speaking of powerful conversations, this source takes a fascinating turn, suggesting we can even talk to our circumstances. I know that sounds weird, but stick with me. It might sound a little out there, but the source wants us to shift from, just complaining about our problems to actively speaking faith-filled words over them.
So instead of saying like, ugh, this project's a train wreck waiting to happen, I should be saying, project, you will succeed. Kind of feels like I'm talking to my plants.
Maybe not in those exact words, but the point is to change our perspective, our language. Instead of dwelling on the negative, we choose to speak words of hope, of healing, strength. The source even brings up Mark 11:23.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. What's it say again?
Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Go, throw yourself into the sea,' and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them."
I always thought that was metaphorical. Is this source saying we can literally talk problems away?
It's not about magic words or wishful thinking. It's about aligning our words with our faith, believing that God can work through us to overcome challenges. It's about declaring what we believe is true, even when things look totally different.
So how would this work in, say, a career setback? Am I supposed to stand on my roof, shouting affirmations at the clouds?
It's less about how loud you are, more about the conviction behind it. Instead of, I'll never recover from this, you might say, I trust God is opening new doors, even if I can't see them yet. Inviting possibility, hope into the situation.
I'm starting to get how this ties back to the whole words have creative power thing. If we just keep saying defeat, we're kind of making that our reality.
You got it. And this leads us to the third direction of speech, talking to others. Might seem like the simplest one, but this source has insights that go beyond the be nice stuff.
Play it on me. We've done God ourselves. What curveballs we got for talking to other people.
Well, they give the classic biblical take on gossip, negativity,
Ugh.
quoting James 3:7, out of the same mouth come praise and cursing, my brothers and sisters, this should not be. But then they take it further. They point out how our words impact things even when the person we're talking about isn't around.
So even if someone doesn't hear the gossip, it still does something. How's that work?
The source says, our words, whether good or bad, they create a kind of spiritual atmosphere. Ever walked into a room where people were just fighting and you could just feel the tension?
Oh, totally. It's like you can cut the negativity with a knife.
That's exactly it.
Hmm.
Our words have this ripple effect, going way beyond just the conversation itself. They add to the energy, the vibe of our relationships and communities.
Wow, that's kind of deep. Makes you think twice about even those offhand comments, you know?
For sure. It reminds us to be aware of what kind of energy we're putting out there with our words.
Wow.
Ready for the grand finale, the fourth direction.
Hit me with it.
This one might be the toughest to grasp. Talking to circumstances.
Wait, we can talk to our problems, not just about them. I'm picturing myself shaking my fist at traffic, yelling, be gone.
Think less drama, more intentionality. Instead of complaining, we speak words that invite the change we want.
Okay, I see the link back to creative force again, but practically, how's that supposed to work?
Imagine you've got this impossible decision to make. Could speaking words of faith, like this source says, actually change the outcome? It makes us really question what we believe about how powerful our words are.
I like that. It's not about bossing the universe around, but aligning our words with what we deeply want, what we believe, trusting that something can happen when we do that.
Exactly. Now, I bet you're thinking, this sounds amazing, but how do we actually change how we talk? We've been doing this for years. Can't just flip a switch.
You read my mind. I'm all in on taming my tongue, but I need some real-world advice here. Does the source offer anything practical?
Absolutely. The podcast gives a bunch of strategies for making our speech match our faith, our values.
Oh.
One of the most powerful, just pausing before speaking.
Okay, simple enough. But how does a pause actually help?
Especially when we're emotional. Taking a second to gather our thoughts, maybe ask for guidance. They can stop us from saying stuff we regret later. It's about being intentional.
Makes sense. I've definitely said things in the heat of the moment that I wish I could take back.
We all have. Another tip, meditating on scripture.
Huh?
Filling our minds with positive, truthful words makes us more likely to, speak that way too.
So like garbage in, garbage out, good stuff in, good stuff out.
Exactly. They also talk about choosing words that heal, that build up, instead of tearing down.
I like that. It's being deliberate about the impact we want our words to have.
Yep. And their final tip, be quick to listen, slow to speak. Good advice no matter what, but especially when we're trying to, watch our tongues.
That's classic advice, but so easy to forget when you're in a heated debate or just excited to share your own thoughts.
It takes practice, for sure, but listening more than we speak, huge benefits for our relationships and our own growth.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired to be more careful with my words, but before we wrap up, I gotta ask, is there any science behind this words have power thing, or is it all spiritual?
It's actually both. Spiritually, like we've been talking about, there's this deep belief in the creative force of words. But there's also more and more research showing our words affect our brains, our bodies.
Really? Tell me more.
For example, studies show that practicing positive self-talk, it can lower stress and anxiety, improve your mood, even boost your immune system. But negative self-talk does the opposite. More stress, depression, even physical problems.
So there's a real connection between what we say and how we feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just self-talk. Kind words, expressing gratitude, that's been shown to release endorphins, create a sense of connection, well-being for both people involved.
Wow, this is blowing my mind. So it's not just our spiritual lives our words are shaping, but our physical and mental health too.
Exactly. It's all connected. Our words are incredibly powerful tools. They can literally shape our reality on multiple levels.
Okay, we've definitely established that words are powerful. But this deep dive has also shown us we can choose our words, use them for good.
That's the takeaway, right? We're not stuck with how we've always spoken. We can change, be more mindful, use our words to create a better reality for ourselves and everyone around us.
I love that. It's really empowering. So as we wrap up, let's take a minute to like summarize the main points from this deep dive into the power of words. We talked about how they have this divine origin, this creative force that can actually shape reality.
We also looked at how our words impact our relationship with God, with ourselves, others, even the situations we're in.
And, we learned that changing our speech habits, it takes work, but it's totally doable if you have the right tools and the right mindset.
What's really cool to me is how this source connects faith and science. It's not just like vague spiritual stuff. There's real proof that our words affect our physical and mental health.
Yeah, it's like that saying, what you think you become, but this source takes it a step further, right? It's like what you say, you become.
Exactly. Which leads to a really interesting question for our listeners. If our words really do have this power to shape reality, what kind of world are you speaking into existence?
Ooh, that's a good one. It makes you think about not just taming your tongue, but actively using your words to create positive change.
Right. It's not just avoiding the negative. It's about intentionally speaking words of hope, of encouragement, truth, using our voices to build others up, inspire them, make a real difference in the world.
So for someone listening who's like fired up and wants to take action, where would you suggest they start?
I think the best thing is to pick one area that speaks to you and focus on small changes. Don't try to change everything overnight. Maybe this week you're more aware of your self-talk. Next week you focus on encouraging others. Small steps, but consistent, they can make a big difference over time.
It's like any habit, really. Consistency is key. And patience, because let's be real, we're all going to mess up sometime.
Oh, absolutely. We're all works in progress. The important thing is to keep practicing, to try and make our words match our values, and never underestimate the power of even a small act of kindness spoken out loud.
So to everyone listening, what area of speech do you want to work on the most? Is it, making your prayer life more meaningful, speaking more kindly to yourself, blessing others with your words, maybe even speaking faith over your circumstances?
Whatever it is, think about one small change you can make today. Even a single word, said with intention and from the heart, can have an impact that's bigger than you can imagine.
And hey, if you stumble, don't give up. Every effort you make to tame your tongue, to use your words for good, that's a step towards a more positive life for you. And D, for those around you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the power of words. Hopefully this episode has made you think differently about the impact of what you say.
And hey, if we slipped up and said something not so great during this episode, we hope you'll cut us some slack. We're learning right alongside you.
Always learning, always growing. Until next time, may your words be full of truth, love, and the power to create a world that shows the best of who you are.
See you next time, everyone.